What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cousin Cecil Show. I am your host, Cousin Cecil, aka Mike Fowler. How are you? I hope you had a better week than me. Hope you had, and it's more because it goes into the topic of the show, like I kind of tease on Twitter. Because, I had a good week instead of I got disappointed with the Suicide Squad, and we're gonna elaborate on that this week, and that's probably gonna be the whole show. Because honestly, you know what? It's my show. What do you want me to talk about this week? Hey, the PlayStation's VR 2 is gonna be better than the PSVR 1. You know what? How much news is that to tell you? Like we said, okay, cool. You're going to have OLED screens in your eyeballs. You know, Nintendo Switch is making you pay $350 for that without a upgraded chip. You know, hey, people do it. And they also did the smart thing. They're going to have the controllers inside by the set. And the other thing that they also said is they're focusing on PSVR games, but also ones that have the ability to play without VR, i.e. like Resident Evil 7 and all that jazz. And then what? You want me to talk about Blizzard and how the president chickened out and stepped down before it gets, like, the real shit hits the fan? You know, fuck him. But yeah. We're also going to curve a little bit into, like, you know, I think I have a comic review, but I'm going to do it at the end because I feel it's weird to talk about it before. Because one of them I'm going to do is a Suicide Squad book that is a Black Label one, which is out of context. So, you know, I don't want to hash out a non-context movie, but praise a out-of-context book, you know, without understanding my whole piece. But yeah, all right, we're 3 minutes in already, and I'm just going to give the listeners, if you haven't watched the Suicide Squad, either in theaters or on HBO Max with your membership, I don't want to say it like that, but, you know, come back to the show. I will also give you guys the benefit of if you ride along with me through this. I don't think I am going to spoil anything that is like, how would I word it? I don't think I'm spoiling anything that involves, like, real quote-unquote story, because just come back after you watch it, and please, because I think it's more I have points, and I'm trying to explain it to you in this whole little segment, this whole section, that I'm, like I said, when you come back, you're like, oh, you know what, Mike didn't really spoil, but he did show his points, and that it obviously has to be, the conversation does involve things that happen in the movie, but they're not spoilers in the sense. But yeah. So, why don't we just get right into it? And then we'll do it the way I think we should do it. So, the Suicide Squad movie came out, written and directed by James Gunn. The team, basically, long story short, this is a soft reboot, but also Warner Brothers is trying to say it's a sequel, but the only reason why it's a sequel is because Boomerang, Harley Quinn, Rick Flag are the same actors. You know what I'm saying? They also act like they know each other from previous events. And I guess we'll go right off the get-go. And the way I'm going to break this down for the show is, I think the Suicide Squad is a bad DC movie. I think it's an alright action movie. And there is a way I'm going to, and this episode is me trying to have you guys understand my feels and the idea of Ozzy, which I'm hopefully by 54 episodes we are come to terms that I am a big DC fan. I like Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. I'm not saying I'm a fucking Zack Snyder cultist. I just have feelings, and then there's things that the Suicide Squad did wrong that ruffle my feathers that I'm going to explain. I even will explain that I even like the 2016 Suicide Squad a little bit more only because of the things that I'm going to explain. It might not be a better movie, but for me with a DC heart, I'm going to explain myself. But we'll get into, how about we just start off good and at least say, what are the things I liked from the movie Suicide Squad, the newest James Gunn version. And then honestly, the only thing I like is I think John Cena did a very good job as Peacemaker, besides his ending. Besides how the ending was. But I think, and then I also, how would I word it? I think that's about it. I think I just like Peacemaker, but at the moment in time, how the ending was, I'm not too thrilled for his new TV series that's coming out in January because of just how the ending is. And I think we'll try to do a little bit more tiptoe way down the road, because obviously there still might be people trying to see if they can push through this without hearing me spoil something. But that's my only pro on it. Now we'll break it down into we're going into levels. Let's go with beginner levels. Why I don't like this movie. Beginner levels is I think this is more of a generalization of how I'm going to explain it. I don't mind rated R movies, but there is something with James Gunn's Suicide Squad that I don't think the over the top violence. Now, how would it work? Like, I think the imploding and the fucking fucking melting of the violence, for some reason, at the end of the day, because this is where I'm thorough. Spoiler, that's a term in the movie. I watched this show 2.5 times. And each time I'm trying to, not like, how do I word it? I'm not doing it to I'm finding more things to hate. But I'm trying to see if my feelings, my first time around, are still feel justified. And they are. And for a beginner level irk, because of, I feel this ultra violence is a very hit and miss, and obviously I know I'm in the minority, but I don't think it's a good shtick for any superhero movie now. Thinking about, unless you're doing The Boys, something that involves the world, that's part of the universe's rules. Okay, so we had ultra violent moments in Suicide Squad. Polka Dot Man, his powers can melt, they're interdimensional portals that they burn. They make people into mush in the movie. Okay. That definitely is a thing, because then the end, how would I word it? It's hard to then not, because I don't think Warner Brothers cares. That's another big issue. But with the ultraviolence, that makes it so that it's very hard to put in a superhero as a reference in the movie. Like, I'll be honest, and that's another little beginner level. There was literally, it is so distant from DC content. But that, like, the idea of having so much, like, people turning into, like, Jell-O pudding from Polka Dot Man, or just a bomb, we'll say, it is hard to then go, oh yeah, Superman lives in this world too. Oh yeah, Wonder Woman, Batman, you know what I mean? It's hard to put them into this world when there are villains that are being used that can make pudding, because they do ultra-violent settings in this instead of, making it into like a PG-13 mode. Which, again, it could still be rated R, but also they didn't have to be so graphic. Okay. And then back into the thing I just said, for I think this is a beginner level thing. The movie is very much an action movie, but this movie could be made and just been called James Gunn's Violent Project. It don't have to be called DC's The Suicide Squad. It could just been James Gunn's newest IP. And the movie could have done start to finish and nothing. I would have honestly said it was all right, because I've known James Gunn. I know James Gunn does like the ultra violence. I've seen Slither. I've seen Ozzy Brightburn, and all that stuff. I think, and then James Gunn, but like I said, the Suicide Squad is filmed in a way that it's so distant from the DC universe. And not even talking about the DC movie universe. I'm talking about the idea of there are these villains that are from Belle Reve. There are no connections to any hero, so they're just prisoners. And like the idea of you are setting it, you put a tone, because and that like for the main story, the only person who had any connection to a superhero is Idris Elba's Bloodsport, but it was a one sentence thing. Does not even talk about his true background. It doesn't even talk about his new background. That is, oh yeah, that's another thing we're getting into. But it doesn't even talk about his new backstory. It doesn't even he is just a prisoner. He is just also, in my opinion, of how James Gunn wrote it, he is just they just flipped a coin and just did opposite day of what Deadshot was in 2016 Suicide Squad. Deadshot, obviously, is Will Smith. He also had a daughter, but he was also a loving parent, just obviously in jail. And this time around, they have Idris Elba be a low-life parent who doesn't like his kid, but also like has that weird it just rough. It kind of felt like simple and like bad writing, because they just did like that way. They could I'm going to explain it down the road. They could have just done Bloodsport's real origin in a sense that is more like there's a modern one now. But we'll get into it because we're still in the beginner level of why I don't like it, because I don't want to flood the floodgates with like DC lore and all that stuff. But yeah, the movie is very disconnected from any DC anything. I'm not talking about just movies. Even like the idea of having Harley Quinn in there, and then at the end of the day, like I said, she's not Harley Quinn in a Suicide Squad movie. She is just being basically a bleach white girl who's a little psychopathic criminal. You know what I'm saying? In Birds of Prey, I feel she was more Harley Quinn. And then in 2016 Suicide Squad, having Joker in the story makes her Harley Quinn because of just, you know, it sounds dumb how I explain it, but the idea of like, they show the history, they show the love, like, you know, like Harley Quinn's not like a person who like flourishes as just Harley Quinn unless she's doing like hijinks in Gotham or in the DC universe. You know what I'm saying? Like she could just be, you could put, like she is like, sounds dumb, but like how they put her in 0 Point Fortnite, she just becomes a person just killing people in the Battle Royale map. It felt natural because that's just her shtick. You know what I'm saying? But she could be put anywhere. Okay, those are some beginner level complaints. And also, I think, I have a real... This is going to be the beginner walking into intermediate. I don't think James Gunn is that well at writing anymore. I think also he does a very alright and two of the good writing of this shtick, but like the same shtick that he's been doing in how he in Suicide Squad, he did it with Suicide Squad definitely feels more closer to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 compared to number 1. And then I'm more trying to say this because I feel Disney put James Gunn on a real tighter leash for Guardians of the Galaxy 1 compared to 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is probably one of my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe's movies. And honestly, it's because of he did put a little personality into Star-Lord. He did like the whole little 80s or 70s and 80s rock and roll like mix. But just because you struck lightning in that bottle, you have to do it. You've done it now. You put it into Suicide Squad. He like really worried about the music again, which are irrelevant to me in this idea. So he made Groot, because I don't remember if Groot before, he did the I Am Groot. So I don't know if he's the one that made Groot just say his name. I think that's more of a lore that he does. But the idea of like, I didn't even do this as like a point, like I found it out, but there are people on the internet that also said like, James Gunn they were saying, like, man, the Suicide Squad ending feels like this. And like even IGN goes, hey, James Gunn, we noticed that on Suicide Squad ends kind of like the same feeling as one. They said Volume 2 with I wasn't 100% with like the relaxed, like that dry, like plane ride away, like calmness that happens at Volume 2, like, ooh, and which happens in Suicide Squad. I've also saw someone say, hey, you can't, that part when you make Bloodsport pet the rat, it feels like the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 when you have Drax pet Rocket Raccoon, but obviously in the flip-flop way, like he flip-flopped the idea of Bloodsport and Deadshot, excuse me, which I think is like, again, I think that's splitting hairs, but I'm just saying the idea that it helps defend my way of, I think he does a little bit of the same shtick in multiple movies. I just more say, One Mic podcast, like, the YouTube, What Up Doe Mike's thing. He also said he felt the end mission that happens felt like so much like the original Avengers, where like he goes, Harley, or Bloodsport goes, Harley, take the high ground, which Mike said, that sounds like he said to Black Widow or Hawkeye, whichever fucking one he said. And then even the part like he goes King Shark, Nom Nom, that felt like Hulk. Smash. You know what I'm saying? It just, I feel like for how people are like, oh, this is a great written thing. I think you're giving him a higher praise than you need. I also think it's kind of funny. He got canceled. He was getting canceled for old jokes, which I'm not saying he should. Just stick with me, I'm going to say. I think he got canceled for almost like dead babies or like dead baby jokes or like, you know, really bad kid jokes. I think. I'm pretty confident it was. So that he doubled down into the Suicide Squad movie because Warner Brothers is sleeping at the wheel. They're like, fuck it. There was like 4, maybe 5 dead kid jokes in this movie, in the movie, which I thought was kind of odd. I'm like, man, there's a lot of fucking talking about worrying about the kids in this movie. But yeah, another medium level complaint is he changed some of the characters' personalities, in my opinion. He will go off an easier one. He changed Rick Flag, which I'm not saying he was like a Spielberg fucking esque like design character, but the idea of in the first movie, he dealt with a lot of heartache because he was in love with Enchantress, blah blah blah. But the idea, like you definitely felt like he's a leader. In the second one, they literally was able to curve his personality into just comic, like just he became a non-leader and just a person to say a word, and like it was just like I don't even know how it just changed the whole tone for Rick Flag. Rick Flag before, granted, he started the conflict in the third act that of in between Suicide Squaders, but it was just so. It just didn't feel right. Like, he even, like, at the beginning, where he was like, hey, there's Rick Flag, and he just felt... It just didn't feel as the same as the first movie, which, again, I know it's a soft reboot and all that shit, but they just... You know what I'm saying? And the bigger thing that I didn't like is how they treated Amanda Waller compared to the first movie and also in the books. So, in this movie, which you can see in the trailer, so I'm going to say it more like this. There's a part when Bloodsport, she does like her usual offer you can't refuse move to Bloodsport. And Bloodsport grabs like a pen and puts it next to her neck and, you know, starts yelling. The one thing I think, and then they did a really weird cutting of the film for this segment, I'm going to say. But the whole room is freaking out, and then I think it's Viola Davis, you know, does her stand down, and then she, like, people keep on raising up the voices, and she does, like, a real, like, sound like, you know, her, like, for her being an actress, she was hollering, like, stand down! That might look good on movies, but I'm being, like, just saying, like, Amanda Waller's personality, in my opinion, is definitely a person who should not be like, she should not show emotion. She should, like, she knows what she does. Like, there shouldn't be, like, she should be able to just stay cool, calm, and collected and be able to control the room because she did not even flinch. Which she didn't flinch when the guy put the pen, but the idea of having her vocally go, you know what I mean? And look, and like the cut that they used made it look like they made Viola, like, either made her eyes glisten, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't look like Amanda Waller in my eyes. And, like, again, I don't want, like in 2016 one, where there was even the part when, like, the Enchantress was breaking off, and then she didn't even flinch, she just turned around and started stabbing the heart in the briefcase. She didn't freak out, but, like, that's the Amanda Waller I've seen in comics. I'm not saying it like the movie was pristine in 2016. No. But that's where also But yeah, they just did a character switch right there. And another little thing I don't like is, because again, this is the medium, Harley Quinn's, I do not like the whole middle section of the movie where they had Harley Quinn and the I think the dictator, we'll call it Dictator Luna, or Presidente Luna. And like they did this whole little montage because Luna wants to marry Harley Quinn, and she's obviously cuckoo, and she goes, okay. And then they do a whole little fucking love montage with birds and shit, and they go back. My problem is that goes into the writing of James Gunn. I think James Gunn, I don't know why. Okay. I'm going to take this back and think about it like this. I know in movies we can say, oh, we need more time for development. You can't just do it. But just like others said, Harley Quinn has done 3 full movies. And we could have done it like this. The first one was when she was still in love with Joker. Birds of Prey is literally called The Emancipation of Harley Quinn. Okay? Why can't, by the time of Suicide Squad, why can't she already be doing the things that she's already doing in the comics and already just having, clearly showing more bisexuality? And the idea of, because of, the reason I say this is because James Gunn wrote in a very stereotypical big titty Latina girl to be the secretary. He also did, he made Harley Quinn, because the Luna part, the President Luna part, it did have a okay finish because it goes into, it involves Harley saying, next time I fall interest to a guy who has red flags, I said to kill him, which she does. She kills President Luna, which causes, just a thing. But I don't like that she said, hey, goodbye to your big dick, basically. I know I said it in a more straightforward way. She said, I want to say goodbye to that monster in between your legs. I just think it gives Harley Quinn a 2 steps backwards to make her think she's just like some, dick, just a dick crazed person, which, what I mean? She's more than that. So I'm just saying. I also think, I think the story, which goes into from the beginning level thing, the story is very bland. The story is very thin. The story also involves, why would there be an island of people who are anti-American, stick with me, I'm going to say, that are we can, with projects, they have, Starro is on this island, okay? The starfish from DC, who is a mind-controlling starfish from space, which is in the trailers, so I was not spoiling it. But the gimmick that this island is talking about is, with the power of Starro, we could be the big dogs of the universe. Huh. They were talking about governmental control. But the thing I'm trying to say is, if this was a DC universe, or anything that connected to DC universe, not movies, I'm talking about comics, why would a little island think they can control the world with Starro, while there's Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, fucking Flash, you know what I mean? It didn't make sense. They didn't even say with this we could stop Superman here and then we could control the, you know what I mean? They didn't even try to give it a superhero reason why it could do it. There's no way with this, because of in theory it's supposed to be a superhero universe. The superheroes would come and they would win. That's why I didn't like it. It made the story bland because they try to be so distant away from the DC a DC anything. That's, you know what I mean? Okay. And then also, we'll get into, I think this one's a medium level complaint. I do not like the personality of Ratcatcher 2 because for some reason I don't understand why being very sleepy is a personality trait, and then James Gunn just said millennials. It sounds stupid, and I don't understand why she's always sleepy. King Shark is okay, but it's a very watered down version of King Shark. And like, how would I word it? People were referencing, we have two different connections to King Shark, one from Flash and one from the Harley Quinn cartoon. I don't think the Harley Quinn cartoon should be a reference point for even anybody to use to put there in their movie because of it's a character, like they're all characterized. Even Bane, who is a very intelligent supervillain, is dumbed down in the Harley Quinn animated series. And then I'm not saying anything bad about, because Ron Funches in this Harley Quinn cartoon is excellent. But this idea of, again, it goes into like King Shark has to be like the Groot of the group and go, om nom, and all that shit. And like, we have it sounds dumb how I'm going to say, this Saturday is free comic book day. They're going to have a King Shark free comic book, and I bet you money is going to be very articulate in that motherfucker. He ain't going to be knowing, oh, dumb friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it like that? I also I think this will be a medium level because of how I'm going to play it. I don't think it's fair that DC fans have to come into any movie reading a Wikipedia page to have any content or context towards the DC universe that this movie is trying to collect your money on because they're using the DC universe's name. Why do I have to go to Wikipedia and know who? We'll make an easier one. Bloodsport. Why do I have to go to Wikipedia to even know Savant? Why do I have to go to Wikipedia to know who Javelin is? Why are you highlighting these characters when they have no superhero to connect them to? I feel villains have connections to heroes. That's why also one thing about 2016 Suicide Squad, no matter what you say, they did a very well job of explaining who these villains are and also their backgrounds. Like Killer Croc maybe had the more weaker one because the idea of, like, you have to know that he's a Batman villain, but Harley Quinn obviously had the whole shtick. Deadshot has a whole shtick. Captain Boomerang has even that small section, which is a very viable section because of what it is. Of he was trying to rob a bank, and they show the Flash catching him. Okay, that explains it. El Diablo had his backstory showing that he killed his family, which can just go into he's a metahuman. That's why he's in prison. Okay, sorry. Again, it might sound like me. What's the word? It might be like me showing favoritism towards that movie because I like it fonder now. But no, it's because of that idea. We had, okay, now we're in the heart level. We're already 35 minutes in. So I'm assuming it's also safer to do a little bit more spoilery. Okay, so the beginning of the movie, it starts off with, it shows Savant. It starts the whole movie with Savant. And which also then gets into me. I do not like that we have a 61-year-old Savant. And that is his age. When you look at his little bio that's on the table, they have Amanda Waller's, all her cronies are now betting on the Suicide Squad, which if they did that and only that, I'd let it slide. But what they do at the end, I do not like. But so they have her cronies betting on the people. So they show like their filing papers of like who these people are, and they show savants, and it has them being a vigilante, and like these other little crimes, kidnapping and all that shit. But it does not tell you still who Savant was. And why would I care about a 61-year-old Savant not knowing that, did you know he used to be a Birds of Prey villain? Did you know he's actually super intelligent, but he actually just suffers from he has like this weird tendency of forgetfulness. He also had a crazy abduction to Oracle. No, they don't talk about that. They just use him as fodder. And like it goes into that idea of, I want the DC universe to have a standard. Or the idea of it showed Mongal. Mongal's an alien daughter of Mongol, a Superman villain. But the reason I'm trying to say is, what makes me care about Mongal? Or my favorite part is, how the fuck is she on Earth with no connection to a superhero or another event? That's the only part I don't like. What's another one that I didn't like? Okay, I don't even like Blackguard. Blackguard, because of like even how they wrote it. I know that in the Suicide Squad books or something like that, how they even showed it in 2016, there's always going to be a character that has their own intentions in the thing, but literally walks onto the beach and goes, "Hey guys, I'm here. I'm the one who called," and then he gets his face blown off. But like, Blackguard could have been a very decent villain, or again, all my concerns are involving if Warner Brothers, and I guess technically the DC's movie section gave a shit. But like, why do you have a Booster Gold villain when there's no connection to a Booster Gold or the idea of like the future hero, blah 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 blah, all that back time travel shit? I know it's just fodder and people are having a good time about it, and he's like Savant, Blackguard. TDK is retarded, but I understand, and Mongal, they're only there for 5 minutes of the movie. But the idea of why you have, like, and again, I know the DC universe ain't going to use like Javelin in a Green Lantern movie, but I'm just trying to grasp, how are you here? Like, who is your villain or who's your hero? And because like it goes into like that. That's the only part. I'm not saying these are D-list villains, and not even D-list heroes. These are D-list villains. So that's probably like a E, like or like didn't even pass a test, fucking hero. You know what I'm saying? But then it goes into I just want a backstory, or like the idea of, you could have had him in the plane ride, just say their background, not just joke about the Weasel possibly being a werewolf or the TDK thing. I don't like the writing. What's that word that they use? When it's written in a way for their convenience and not for the reader or the watcher's convenience. All right, so they're in a town that has apparently Amanda Waller quality of blocking. Amanda Waller can't talk to the whole crew. So that again goes into it weakens Amanda Waller's control of who she is in the movies or comics or anything in her background and personality. And then also for another connection, because I know again it's in a small time frame of minutes, but even like Peter Capaldi's character, the Thinker, we know the Thinker from The Flash, but I'm just trying to explain for a brand new person to watch a movie. Does this movie tell you anything about why this motherfucker has Christmas lights coming out of his fucking head? Does this movie even tell you why is he called the Thinker if it takes him 30 years to control, to figure out the Starro thing? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. And why would you, it goes into that. I know the Thinker is not going to be a Flash movie quality of villain. He was not even that good in the Flash TV show. But the idea of they could, instead of him just being a guy with Christmas lights on his fucking head who likes going to the titty bar every fucking night, they could have tried to do something that connects him to the DC universe in some way. Just say he doesn't even like people fucking running because he does, because of the Flash. You know what I mean? Something stupid. Again, and then also Starro. I like Starro, but I do not like, with the knowledge that I know of Starro, I don't like that James Gunn made it be a when his starfish go on to people's faces, yeah, obviously, which is normal, but they make it, oh, you're dead when you wear it. That's how they described it in the movie. So, with that said, they just made the whole final third act fight feel irrelevant because they're stopping the big Starro. But at the end of the day, everyone who's been on the starfish has the starfish on their face is dead. Okay? But the reason why they went and tried to stop Starro, they said, we have the city to save. But they're already dead. They're already dead before they even thought about saving. You know what I'm saying? It's things that bump heads. I just didn't like it. And then also, okay, here's the thing about Bloodsport. Bloodsport, all right. If you were Wikipediaing Bloodsport before this movie, you would have seen a Mr. DeBoer, who is he ran. He ran from the draft from the Vietnam War. His brother took his spot, lost his arms and legs, and which made Robert DeBoer, Idris Elba's character, go insane and end up just medically insane. In which then you find out Lex Luthor funded him and gave him a device so he can create weapons out of thin air, but also gave him kryptonite bullets for Superman. Okay, that would have been your newest, or that's your old origin of him. This new origin, okay, you would have to. This was made, and then the DC Comics decided to help James Gunn by putting a new origin story out that happened 4 weeks ago. This, in the newest run of the Suicide Squad, they put Bloodsport in here, who has his new outfit from the movie. But the one thing that they missed out on, a good opportunity to have a decent thing happen in this movie. You know who gave him that new suit in the book, in the one that happened 4 weeks ago, to give him that could have been a very closed-in story does not even have to talk about Lex Luthor, even though he should be talking about Lex Luthor since he is a Superman villain. But, Amanda Waller gave him his new suit in the book. And in the new origin, which should have been like this, instead of talking about his daddy and then having him be this weird not even flip of the coin, the same fucking side of the same mirror image of Peacekeeper, you could have just had him, like, you didn't have to have the daughter. You could have just had him be in Bella Reeves because he shot Superman because his brother dies, because that happens in the new origin, instead of his brother living and being a paraplegic. They just have his brother Mickey die, which then made him go crazy, and he wants to help, and then Amanda Waller gives him the suit that has a complete arsenal like he does. But the thing I'm trying to say is, they do not talk about that in the movie. They just have him walk around, look into me and the idea. That's why I didn't like it, without any knowledge. Okay, you're making him look like Iron Man. He just grabbing shit. He pinched his armor's nipple and made a fucking silencer. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit. He also had a fucking little Star-Lord perfect fucking helmet every time that he needed it. It just seemed, it was written in a way I'm like, just these small contexts would have helped me benefit it. That's all I'm saying. What's another thing? The whole ending is rough. So, Rick Flag dies. And even with the blocking of audio, they don't even show Waller seeing that he died. At least they could at least show that Waller had intentions that because that's, at the end of the day, they were there to make sure certain news does not get out, and they have to collect it. And Rick Flag obviously wanted to do the opposite because he was just tired, blah, blah, blah. But then he died. The rest of the team didn't know it until said event was extinguished, till we knew, because that's a post-credit scene also. But like, you couldn't at least had Waller just say, hey, that's what you're here for. Rick Flag said no, blah, blah, blah. And then the idea of having them become the heroes and stopping Starro is, of course, how would I word it? The most logical thing for a movie. But my personal thoughts is Starro is a character who is on the first cover of the first ever Justice League of America book. Okay, stick with me. So he comes out and he's being a big old kaiju event on this island. There's a way that we could have kept I think it would keep Waller's personality right. It would have also stopped this whole little thing that I do not like with Waller's cronies, and it would have kept the Suicide Squad under Black Ops and under the radar like they're supposed to be, like they are in the comics. Okay. There was this moment in time when Bloodsport's staring at Starro breaking up the building, and he's like, oh, I don't, like, he wanted to first say it's the job, but, like, they could have reworded it, and I would have think this would have been a really cool thing. Why didn't you just have from up in the sky, and it doesn't even have to be up close fighting. Why didn't they have, like, the Justice League come out and, like, fight Starro, and then just from a distance, you see that they make the iconic cover of Justice League of America, and then they would go back to Suicide Squad and go, fucking heroes, and then they just leave with and then, like, it doesn't have to do this whole little shtick where I'm going to explain. So Waller is yelling, you have to, like, finish the mission by leaving. That is not your jurisdiction, not your problem. and they have her cronies hit her over the head and knock her out. And then the cronies are like, go save them, blah, 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 and be heroes. They're not heroes, they're villains. That's why I don't like it. But also, I don't like seeing Amanda Waller, who her character is not like this, be treated like that in this sense from cronies. Especially since the cronies are definitely the voice of James Gunn in the show. That's why I don't like it. I don't like the whole. I don't like Ratcatcher's whole backstory about her dad. When it does like this weird no connection to villains or superheroes. So it's just them sitting on top of a fucking like a European like building, fucking look like Ratatouille. It just looks dumb. And like she's crying all the time thinking about it. It's just too much. It's just like I'm like, what are you doing? I think also then I don't like the real ending after Starro dies and like they have the upper hand on Waller. You got a deal. And like she just kind of like she just feels like a shell of herself from the other from comic book content. Like, cause right then and there when she woke up and he's doing that threat, I know that he had it on a server, but like the idea of it just feels like it was like written like, oh, what else can you do? You have to agree. It just didn't feel right. I just didn't like it. And then it goes into, like I said, it's so out of context with the DC universe. Not about movies, because I keep hearing like that. Maybe it's a good thing that it's not so connected to the DC universe movies. I'm not saying about the movie, but the idea of DC universe itself, it's so out of context. I don't like it. It literally could have been, it reminded me of like 2017's Guardians, that weird Russian Avengers-esque movie that's so B-list because of like, it makes a universe with weirdness, and it's also in the real, like in the real world, Earth. It's still on Earth, but the idea there's weird things like there's, meta-humans, or there's also giant weasels. I just don't like James Gunn's Suicide Squad because it does not feel anything DC. It just feels like a brand new IP, but people keep telling me it's DC. That's all I'm trying to get to. I know it's been 54 minutes, but yeah. I guess also I wanted to say is, if anybody's like, well, Mike, what would you do if you had the keys to the DC universe, or like movie universe, to help fix it? Or what would you do? So I wanted to just leave off that because I do think it's a little, I did 54-minute rant for no reason. It's a movie that is totally irrelevant. The world's not saved. It doesn't cure cancer, this movie, you know what I'm saying? But I just have a problem with it. But all right, here are my keys to the DC universe. If I would do a hard reboot, no more of this shit. The first movie I would do was Superman, and I'm just more giving you a synopsis of what I would do, not saying the whole plot. It would intro Superman, of course, Martian Manhunter, Lobo, LexCorp, and Wayne Tech. And then I think the villain, like one of the main villains, the main villain of this would be is Mr. Misoplex, which is that little nymph or imp of the DC universe. The reason I do that is because I want to give a foundation to there's magic in this world, and also Superman has never in movies fought somebody with magic yet, even though super magic is one of his things that it affects him like kryptonite. I think having Lobo being tricked by Mr. Plex would be a good little, cool little thing for the whole thing. But yeah, and then the tease at the end, like I would do end credit scenes also. The end of the credit scene would be teasing that Brainiac is coming. The next movie I would do is a Green Lantern movie. Intros Hal Jordan, intros John Stewart, the whole Lantern Corps. Mentions other big planets of heroes and villains, more to grasp, just so that we're also understand there's more. This is a big world. Like it's going to be like the intergalactic part, like how Guardians did for Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it shows like there's more to Earth. And then at the main part of the story is they're realizing that something is altering their maps or their power rings to hide. Basically, it's Brainiac. They show that it's hiding Brainiac's movement through the solar system heading to Earth. The main villain would be just the Manhunters, but that secretly shows that Sinestro ordered them out, for the fight. Again, you know what I mean? Next would have been Wonder Woman. I'd like to have a greenhorn Wonder Woman, so like fresh, brand new Wonder Woman, and like maybe like 8 months into her just being Wonder Woman. Intros her, Nubia, Cheetah, and like more of the magic. I know Mizaplex does, but intros magic into this world, this universe. Other mystical lands they talk about, like also teases, Hawkgirl, Hawkman's world or place they're from, and also says Black Adam's homeland. By the end, I like to do a whole Wonder Woman movie that is, like I said, it's still on Themyscira, but she is sneaking into the world of man and just doing like petty, petty crime shit, like stopping burglars or like, stopping a car chase and all that stuff. But she's doing it behind her mother's back in the first movie. Next, because of you have to still understand that there's been previous movies. I think there should be a HBO Max style TV show for Batman. I don't think he's going to have a movie in my thoughts yet. 10 hours, so 10 episodes. Intros Bruce, Gordon, and kids. So I'm assuming the Bat family. One of the first couple villains, like the villains that are going to be in the first season, is Mad Hatter, Captain Boomerang, because stick with me, I'm going to do the approval of making Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum's not even made yet in this story until it mentions Central City, and there's a severe thunderstorm happening over there. It's 2 years into Batman. He's investigating Scarecrow and the Red Hood, the real Red Hood, not Jason Todd. We get Scarecrow serum, give this Crime Alley flashback, and in series mentions LexCorp trying to get into Gotham for like a Bruce Wayne conflict of the series. Next would be a Max-style Flash. Intros Barry, Iris, Star Labs with mentions of Cyborg's father, Captain Cold, whatever the Weathermaster, Reverse Flash, and Bane. And then also the Flash series involves the metahuman explosion, which starts, the whole metahumans in the universe, and ends with the Green Lantern coming to find Barry. Superman 2, Lex Luthor and metahumans, with Martian Manhunter sensing Mars is being consumed by Brainiac by the end. And maybe Black Lightning tease. Wonder Woman 2. She's been sneaking off Themyscira for 8 months, and man invades Themyscira. Steve is introduced. Diana thinks it's her fault and reveals to her mother her past 8 months, but it was actually an Amazonian witch that's been stringed along by Black Adam. And then may intro Hawkgirl in this movie. Season 2 of Batman has a mid-season break, but because the Justice League movie is going to happen midway through this season. And the events of that will... No, excuse me, that's how I worded it. Basically, the Justice League movie. Green Lantern contacts Martian with Barry to Metropolis, and Sky breaks with Brainiac and, little robots of Brainiac. Mongol and Lobo controlled with the first encounter. Basically, Brainiac catches Martian Manhunter and uses his way of calling off into the world. It brings Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl to a trap in Metropolis, and they all have to join together and fight. And those events happen there, and also the second season of Batman would involve, the second half would be info, or basically the first half involved what happened in Justice League. The second half of is about basically Bane coming to Gotham, even though, just how it works. And at the moment in time, that's what I got for how would I save it? Of course, it can keep continuing. I don't even have a Suicide Squad movie, but just the idea of context. I just want context in the book, in the movie, and I think in my eyes, that's why Suicide Squad suffers in my eyes. But yeah, let's do it. Yeah, that's it. And then basically, I have 2 reviews. One of them is a Suicide Squad book, and it's called, it's a DC Black Label. It came out last week. Suicide Squad Get Joker by Brian Azzarello, the guy who does 100 Bullets. He also did Batman Damn. He does a lot of those side off-canon stories. But basically, long story short, it's a Suicide Squad mission that involves Jason Todd as the leader of the Suicide Squad. It has a lot of Firefly, Mad Dog. It has Harley Quinn, of course. It has just a very, very D-list group. But long story short, I know I bitched about it in the movie, but basically they're out there looking for Joker, and at the end of the book, of the first issue, which I think Joker's allowed to do this, but Joker ends up with all the buttons to blow up, the Suicide Squad's bombs that are in their heads. And that's how issue 1 ends. I want to give this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's really well done. I think it's also very funny in the sense of they kept it kind of modern. They have Mad Dog, who's been on Arrowverse. He is he's a MAGA guy. He was actually at the insurrection at the Capitol building. He took a shit at the Speaker of the House's desk, he says in this book. But I think it's a really good start of an off-canon story. It seems very interesting. Congratulations for my first DC review, even though I bought it and I didn't get how I'm going to say this one. This one's a Scout Comics early review. This one's called We Don't Kill Spiders. It's from Black Caravans Publishing. Is also co-publisher. The writer is also the co-publisher, which is Black Caravan, is Joe Schmackel, which is the guy who did that Cherry Blackbird. Well, this one's a little different. This one is a detective one. In the early Viking Age, a faithless Norseman detective is summoned to a Scandinavian hamlet where a series of murders have occurred. Discovering the dark and bloody history of the village, he investigates the local outcast, a necromantic witch who brings his atheist values into question. Determined to prevent the further homicide, the two band together to discover the identity of a serial killer. And I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. It's very well done. I think you guys should check it out. It's a really good detective comic. And congratulations to another. Again, always go to Scout Comics for scoutcomics.com, or go to your local comic shop. It's very easier than it would be technically more cheaper because then you don't have to pay delivery. Go to your local comic shop. Ask for this book. Get it ordered. It's actually really well done. Do a lot of them. Go get Black Cotton, because Black Cotton had that fucking delay. I'm pissed off. But yeah. This week's hot picks. For music. I'm picking Nas's EMPD 2 with Eminem and I think EMPD. I think that's really... I'm very surprised Nas just snuck out a new album. That was really interesting. For TV, because I'm not going to pick the Suicide Squad, I'm going to just say go watch Ted Lasso on Apple. And for comics, there's a little small group of them, but these are some new number ones that have come out this week. Avengers Tech On, which is like a mech story. Looks kind of interesting. The Defenders, number 1. With a brand new team, like has like Silver Surfer and Doctor Strange as the Defender. Seems interesting. DC, Batman 89, number 1 comes out. Hardware, number 1. From the Milestone series. I Am Batman issue 0, which is going to be the next set of like John Ridley's Black Batman, which is Jace Fox. You know, that starts this week. Pennyworth issue 1, which is just a tie-in to that epic show. Dynamite had Kiss Phantom Obsession issue 1. Dark Horse Unbelievable Unteens issue 1. Aftershock has Capisi, The Dragon Incident issue 1. Scout Comics, Lifeform, and then that will be it. Again, if you guys made it this long, thank you. Or obviously, yeah, follow me at MikeFowler93. Please tell a friend. I guess also you can message me. Just understand where I'm coming from. I just more want context in my shows or my movies, especially if you're going to do with something I enjoy, like the DC Universe. But yeah, at MikeFowler93, and I'll catch you next week. Peace.